Hey everyone, welcome back to Cartel Files. My name is Adrian, and my job is to simplify laser design for you so you can start building your next project quicker. So as you can see here, what I've done is I've created a dart holder. This is made out of a couple pieces of 3mm plywood or just any type of wood that is glued together. And you can see that I have created if I hide the front surface, I've created a pocket on the inside portion where we can stick in the darts, okay? And I then want to laser engrave this front surface and this back surface, as you see here. And this part needs to then slot into the base down here. Okay, and you can see how I've done that. If I remove the base, that middle section has a little cutout that will then fit inside of the base there. And it's meant to all be glued together. So then you can basically place your darts in there and have somewhere to hold your darts. Now, I want to give a little bit of a shout out to this guy. His name is Demon As on Reddit. You can see some of his work that he's done. Here's a video of him making a Merry Christmas box. You can see a sort of snow globe here, some other laser engravings. And I started talking to him, and he said that he's struggling a little bit with his design software. And what he's done is he's created his own version of this, or he was the original designer of this. And he's saying he's having a lot of issues with making things line up and look neat. Okay, so you can see there's a little bit of an issue with the engraving, but that's okay. That can be fixed with settings. But otherwise, you know, the rest of it looks okay. I think he's just struggling with trying to be productive with his design software. And he was telling me that this took a very long time for him to design. So I want to show you how I would design this, and I'm going to use Fusion360. And I touched on this software in my last video. So if you want to go back and watch that, the link will be in the description below. You can watch that video, get a little bit of a basic rundown of the software. But we're going to delve in a little bit deeper and trying to design this today. But before we dive into that, please make sure that you give this video a thumbs up and like the video. If you subscribe, you'll get notifications when I upload a new video, and it helps build the channel so I can keep making new content for you every week. All right, as you can see, this design is made up of a couple different circles. So there's the bottom piece of the base, this smaller base piece, and then these three circles here. So there's a middle piece, a front, a rear, and a top and a bottom base. So if I turn those all off, you'll see what I mean. So you've got this middle piece where you've got three slots cut out here and a little peg at the bottom. Okay, then you've got a front piece that gets glued to that, okay, which gives you that engraved design. And then you've got a rear piece that goes onto the back, also engraved. And then you've got two base pieces. So a top base piece, which is going to look like this, where the peg will pierce down through it. And then a bottom base piece, which is a little bit larger to give that sort of stepped effect, where that peg will also pierce through and become flush with the bottom of the base. So if you were to design this in 2D, obviously it can be done very easily, but it's a lot easier to do this in 3D. And I think Fusion360 is this software package that I would recommend to everyone. So let's start a new project. And what we want to do is create a new sketch on the front plane, which is this plane here. Okay, so we go up to create sketch and we click on that front plane. Now what we want to do is create a circle. So I'm going to press C on my keyboard, or you can come up here and click on the circle option. click in the middle and drag out a circle. Now I want to make this circle about 60 millimeters. So I type in 60 and press enter, and that'll create a circle on the plane that I need. That's exactly 60 millimeters. Okay, cool. Now what we want to do is we want to create those indents, right, where our dart will be inserted. So what I want to do is I want to come to the top here. I'm going to press my line tool. The shortcut is L on the keyboard, but click on the line tool and then come to that point where the top of the circle meets this green line. Click that and drag down. So as you can see, I've got a line being drawn. I want this to be 20 millimeters, so I'm going to type in 20 and then make sure that we're at 90 degrees and hit enter. That'll create a what I'm going to call a construction line. So if you click on this line, you have this option on the right hand side here called construction. I'm going to click that and it should become a dotted line. Okay, and that means that it's not going to take this into account when we do the further steps, but it's going to be useful for us in order to build out our design. Okay, so this is basically a vertical line. Now what we want to do is we want to create a box that will that the dart will fall into, and I know that the dart is 2.5 millimeters in diameter. Okay, so what I want to do is come over to my line tool again and see this node here. I want to click on that node and pull across. Now I want a line that is 1.25 millimeters, which is 2.5 divided by 2, or divide in half. I want half the width of the shaft of the dart as a line. And then I want to come up and make sure that my degrees is 90 degrees. So we don't want to be on an angle like this. We want to be exactly 90 degrees. We want to come up and click on the outside of the circle there. And that creates a 20 millimeter line, vertical line, that is 1.2 millimeters offset from that construction line that we made previously. Good. Now what we can do is we can come over here and click the mirror tool. Okay, with that selected, what I want to do is zoom in, click this bottom line, hold down Shift and click this vertical line. Okay, so we have both of them selected. And you can see here it says 2 objects are selected. Now what we want to do is click on this option, mirror line, and we want to click on that construction line that we made previously. Hit OK. And now you can see we've got this box section that's cut out, and it's perfectly mirrored along the axis of that construction line. Okay, so it just makes things a lot easier to do very quickly. All right, the next thing we want to do is the bottom of this is a perfect square. And the problem with perfect squares when you're laser cutting out of different materials is this point down here is a stress point, and it's very likely to snap at that point. So what I want to do is give it a nice radius, a curve, to ensure that it doesn't break. Okay, so the way we do that is we come up here to the fillet tool, and once you click that, what I want you to do is click on this bottom line and then click on this vertical line. It will then put in a fillet. It's going to recommend 0.3 millimeters. We can make that a bit bigger, maybe 1 millimeter, or maybe 0.5. 0.75 looks good to me. Okay, then repeat the same thing on the other side, the vertical line, horizontal line, 0.75, hit enter, and now we have a nice filleted edge there. Great. Okay, perfect. So now that we have our design, what we want to do is press on Finish Sketch up here. So now we have a sketch with a box at the top for where our dart will be placed. Perfect. So as you can see, the sketch is on this plane, on the front plane. And what we want to do is extend the sketch, or extrude the sketch, sorry, positive and negative of that plane. And I'll show you why in a minute, why that's important. So to do that, we want to come up and we want to click the extrude button here. The shortcut is E on the keyboard. And then once you've clicked the extrude button, I want you to click on the large portion of the sketch like this. And now you can have a look at the different options in the panel on the right. So under direction, instead of one side, I want you to choose symmetric. And what that means is it's going to extend positive and negative of the sketch plane. And then we can type in the thickness that we want. So the material thickness that we're going to be using is 3 millimeters. And because it's going to be positive and negative of the sketch plane, we've got to give it half of that value. So 1.5 millimeters will make 1.5 positive and 1.5 negative, giving me a perfect 3 millimeter extrude. So once you hit enter, now you can see we've got a perfect part with this nice cutout here. Perfect. Now, one thing I want to do is I want to just round these corners over. I think that's going to be a stress riser point as well. And also, it may make it a little bit hard to get the dart in. If it's more curved, you've got more leeway. It's kind of like a funnel. So to do that, we can come up here and choose the fillet tool. And we want to choose this edge and this edge. And we'll use that 0.75 millimeter, the same radius that we used at the bottom, we'll use it at the top. So now that we got a nice filleted edge, what I want to do is now repeat this or create a pattern in order to have multiple of these darts able to be placed in the holder. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, and you can see when I hover my mouse over the filleted edge, it highlights it. So I want to hold down shift, click on that edge, it'll turn blue. Then I want to click on this edge, come down, this edge, and basically all of these edges, right, that define the cutout. So let's make a pattern from this now. What we have to do is come up here, click on create, and then we want to come all the way down to pattern and click on circular pattern. Can you see that? I want to click on circular pattern. Now that we've got our 7 objects selected, which is these blue sections here, right? We want to now choose an axis in which we're going to rotate our pattern by. So click on axis here, and we want to rotate the part and make sure we click on this green line here, which is perpendicular to the face. Click that, and now you'll be able to see that it's showing me 2 other options down the bottom here, where it's going to repeat this pattern, and it's going to try and space it out all evenly. And that's not exactly what I want. So what I'm going to do is in this option here where it says distribution, instead of setting it to full, I want to set it to partial. Okay. And then what I can do is change my quantity. Instead of 3, I want it down to 2. So it just makes 1 extra copy. And I want to grab this arrow and bring it up until it gets to about 25 degrees, just like this. Now we can press OK. And you see it's now copied that, that feature and offset it by 25 degrees. So now we've got our second slot, and we basically just repeat that again, but we need to do that in the opposite direction, so in the left-hand side direction. So we select all those options. Again, we go to create, come down to pattern and choose circular pattern. We come down to axis, select that green axis. Distribution, we set that to partial. Our quantity, we set that to 2. And we can grab that arrow again and bring that up to -25. It should be, if we come around this way, -25, which is right there. Hit OK. And now we have our 3 slots ready to go. Cool. So now we're going to take a break on the middle piece. Okay, so this is obviously the middle section. We need to now create a backing piece and a front piece, which will be engraved with the dart design. And then we can start working on the base as well. So what we want to do is we want to create a sketch on this front face and then extrude out a circle sketch 3mm forward of this face, and then we do the same on the rear. So it's super easy. Create a sketch, choose the face of this middle piece, okay, come up to circle, choose the middle section and draw out a 60mm circle. All right, and you can see that we're drawing this circle on that top face. Press finish sketch, and then we can extrude again. So E is the shortcut on the keyboard. Click on that sketch that we just drew. Okay, make sure you also select the parts that are overlapping the cutout. And you can see the arrows pointing away from the face, which is great. We want to now extrude a piece that is 3mm thick from there. Now, before you hit enter, you need to come over here, and instead of choosing join as the operation, I want you to change it to new body. You see that option there, new body. And now hit OK. So now you can see if we go over here and we choose bodies, we have body 1 and body 2. Body 1 will be that first thing that we made, which is the middle section. And then body 2 will be the front face. So I want to quickly rename these so that it's easier to keep track of all the parts. So click on body 1, right hand click, and then press rename. And we're going to rename that to middle. Click on body 2, rename, and change that to front. And then what we've got to do is the exact same thing, but on the rear. So I can, instead of pressing create sketch, I can press C on my keyboard, and that'll create a circle, or it'll create a new sketch with a circle. So it's just a bit of a shortcut. So let's click on that back face, choose the center point, type out 60, hit E for extrude, make sure you choose those cutout sections and the larger section, type in 3 for 3mm material, and change the operation to new body. Hit OK. So now you can see we've got 3 sections, and I'll just quickly rename the rear to rear. So you can see we have 3 bodies, a middle, a front, and a rear. And if I turn off the front, you can see that the middle is showing with these cutouts. And when I turn it back on, you can see what this will look like where you place your darts in here. Perfect. So these parts will be glued together. Okay, so there's no further design that we need to do to mechanically fit these parts together. But what I want to do now is have a pin that comes out of the bottom of the middle piece that will slot into a base. So what I'm going to do to make my life a lot easier is create something called an offset plane. So you can see that option here. And this is why I said in the beginning, it's really important that we make it a positive and a negative extrusion around the front plane. Okay, because then that means that our part that we're creating is perfectly centered around the origin. And the origin is this design here. If I turn the body off, you can see it shows you the 3 axes, X, Y, and Z. Okay, and what I want to do is take this plane here, which will be exactly in the center of the circle, or of the part that we've made. And because we know that it's 60mm in diameter, I want to create an offset plane, which I can then start designing something from that point, exactly 30mm down from center. Okay, when I hit enter, you can see that this new plane is exactly at the base of the circle. Okay, hope you can see that. It's exactly at the base. So now what we can do is we can create a new sketch. So I'm going to come up here, click create a new sketch, come down to our plane and click on that plane. So now we're going to create a design on this plane. So I can press this option up here for a circle, or C is the keyboard shortcut. Click on this middle section here, this node in the middle, and pull out a circle that's 30 millimeters in diameter and hit enter. Okay, so now you can see what we've basically done. We can click finish sketch, click E for extrude, and we want to extrude a 3 millimeter disc. Okay, make sure the operation is set to new body and then press OK. So that's going to be that smaller disc. Now what we want to do is create one more disc, and it's going to be from this bottom plane here. So C is the shortcut, click on that plane, click in the middle, and we're going to make another disc that's 50 millimeters in diameter. Hit finish sketch, and once again we need to extrude this down 3 millimeters. Oops, sorry, 3 millimeters, and ensure that the operation is set to new body. Okay, so now we've created two more discs that are going to be stacked on top of each other, and we should come over here and just make sure that we update these two body names. So I'm going to click on body 4, click rename, and I'm going to call this top base, I guess. And then the bottom disk, I'm going to rename that to bottom base. Hit enter. All right, so now if I turn this top piece off, you can see how these two pieces interact. They basically just sit on top of each other, but there's no way for us to now pin this top section into the base. And the way that we're going to do that is by creating that little pin that we saw in the beginning of the video. So the way that we do that is I want to hide the front and the rear, because we're only going to be working with these three components. And I want to come down to the bottom of the base here, create a new sketch, and click on that surface there. Now there's an option up here for a 2-point rectangle. That's not what I want to use, but there are other options for rectangles. If you come down to create and come down to rectangle, there's an option here called center rectangle. You see that option? Click on that. Now what we can do is we can come into the center point of that circle, and we can create a rectangle from that center point. And we know that the material thickness is 3 millimeters. So in this instance, we want to type in 3 here, which will constrain the thickness of the pin. And then we want to decide on how wide that pin will be. Now, I've already designed this, so I know roughly 5 millimeters looks good. But, you know, this is parametric modeling, so you can always come back and edit this value later if you don't think it looks right, or you want to, you know, beef it up a little bit or something like that. But let's go with 5 millimeters and hit enter. And that creates a square inside of this circle. Okay. And what we want to do is press finish sketch, and we want to now extrude this up. And just like before, when we were doing our extrudes, I told you the operation should be set to new body. Well, instead of new body, what I want to do is cut. I want to remove the material that's between the bottom layer here and you know, a section up to the middle component. And you'll see what I mean in a second. So I want to just press E on my keyboard, or come up to extrude, click that rectangle, and now bring that rectangle up until it comes up into the middle section. Doesn't matter how far you go, don't go too far, but let's just, make a small indent into that middle section there. Make sure that your operation is set to cut. If you choose join, then all those components will be joined together, and that's not what we want. We want to cut away a portion where we're going to then have a pin set down into. Take note of how much or the distance that you are extruding, okay, or cutting away. So in this case, it's 8 millimeters. Take a mental note of that and then hit OK. So now what you've got is a hole in the base, the two base pieces, and a small slot here in the middle piece. Well, these two base pieces are finished now. We can turn those off. We don't need those in our design anymore while we finish off the rest of the design. Now what I want to do is, you can see this section here. I want to click on that, press E, and now what I want to do is extrude that back down to make a pin, 8 millimeters. That was that number that we had to remember. 8 millimeters, then creates this pin. Make sure the operation is set to join, okay? And we can now press enter, and now that middle piece has this pin. If we turn on the top base, you can see the pin extends through the top base, and then when we click the bottom base, you can see that pin is nice and flush to the bottom of the base. Okay, so now we can turn all our different options on, and you can see how this will all work. Okay, so this is a super simple way, super easy to create your designs. Now what I want to do is export this design so then we can cut it out using our 2D laser software. So right now it's a 3D part or a 3D design, and I need to then convert it back to 2D for our laser. So basically what we want to do, we can ignore the front and the rear because they're just a 60 millimeter circle. But the tricky part is this section here and then the two bases. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is turn everything off, and we will just work at one component at a time. So let's click on create a sketch, click on this front surface here, and then you want to press the P button on your keyboard for project. Click on P, this little box comes up, and we want to make sure that we select inside of the circle here so that the whole design is outlined in that red color. Click that, press OK, and now you can see that there's this purple box or purple line that goes around the whole design. So now we can press finish, and if we head over here to sketches, come down, you'll see that there's one sketch that is currently turned on, sketch 7. That's the last sketch that we just made, which is that projection. I want you to right hand click on that, and then I want you to come down to the option save as DXF. See that option there? Save as DXF. Once you've done that, give it a name. So I'm going to call it middle, and save it somewhere on your computer. Hit save. Now we can turn that sketch off. We don't need that anymore. And we just repeat that same process with the other components. So we got to do it with the top base. Let's create a sketch, press P, project that sketch geometry, hit OK, finish, and then our new sketch here, sketch 8, we want to do the same thing, save as a DXF. Give it a name, we're going to call it top base, and then turn that off. Turn off the top base and reveal the bottom base option. Once again, create that projection, hit OK, finish sketch, and then save as DXF. Call this bottom base, hit save, and now we have all the different components exported out as a DXF file, which is just basically a 2D file that is exported from a 3D surface or a 3D design software. And we can head over to Corel Draw, where we can now import that file and we can start working with it. The shortcut is Control I to import. I want to click on the middle DXF, the top base DXF, and the bottom base DXF option. Hit import. Now you want to make sure that all of these options are set correctly. If your scaling is incorrect or your units are incorrect, please make sure you adjust them. It'll give you basically an idea over here on what the resulting part would look like. So that looks correct for me. Hit OK. And now you can click on your page to place those components that we designed. So those look great. Now we can highlight everything, give it a red color, and ensure that it is a hairline outline ready for cutting. Okay, and you can probably notice that there's one component missing, and that's that front and rear face. And I just didn't bother exporting it because it's super easy to create a circle in Corel Draw. We give it a 60 by 60 millimeter value, create a duplicate of it, and now what we can do is we can import our decal. Again, Control I is the option. You can choose that PNG file, import, and we can set that that image to be in the center of that circle. So once again, let's go 60 by 60 millimeters. We can choose the outside circle. Hold down Shift, click on the image, press E and then C, and that will basically place the image directly over the top of that circle. We can delete the other circle and make a duplicate here. And that's it. That's our design done. A fully working 3D model, okay, of a dart holder. We used a 3D software to basically create the design. We exported that design into a 2D software, which we can now then print it to the laser, and away we go. We can both engrave and cut using this design. Now you can obviously go one step further. So this is where we've left off. You can keep going further and you can add in different design elements like obviously the darts there. You can give the different components this wood finish, and then you can create some images for your design. You can send it over to a client, for example, for them to ensure that that's what they want, or you can just post it up on your website and have it as an image. But I'm going to leave it there for now. We've designed what we want to design. I hope that's given you a little bit more confidence in the 3D software, where we can now design something, export it into our 2D software, and use it as per normal. So once again, if you could, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow and we can keep putting out content just like this. If you have some suggestions on what the next video should be, please leave them in the comments section below. And if you want this file, I'll be uploading it to cartelfiles.com. The link will be in the description below. Go ahead, download it and make one yourself. If you're interested, please send a photo of your design to hello@cartelfiles.com, and maybe your image will be shown in the next video. Bye for now. I'll see you in the next video.